Well, wrong screen, but all right, there we go. Good morning, everybody. I would say I would sound a bit more excited, but I unfortunately slept in till like 5 o'clock. So I've been trying to rush to get stuff all put together, and you, on the other hand, been up still since what, like 2 o'clock or something like that?
Yeah, I couldn't sleep last night, so I've been up a while. So if I yawn a couple of times, don't hold it against me.
Yeah, same
It's like
here, same
quarter to
here.
quarter to two. I woke up as I was in front of some crowd giving a speech, had it all going through my head what I wanted to say. Couldn't get back to sleep. My mind was rolling. Just one of those things.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure I just had dreams of editing videos these days, and that's why I didn't wake up from my alarm. In my dream, I heard my alarm go off. Like I heard because I have it set for YouTube music on my alarm, and I literally heard like '90s rock start playing in my dream. I remember thinking like, "Where's this coming from?" And it just disappeared. And I just went back into kind of went right back into the dream. So
But 90s rock, the most nondescript rock you can possibly listen to. So no wonder it just puts you right to sleep.
yeah, I think it was like Panic at the Disco, or I guess that's early 2000s, but it's all about the same to be honest. Late 90s, early 2000s, the golden age of music as far as I'm.
Yeah, you got to go back a couple of decades to get to the real rock, and then that would have you would have
Well,
woke
the
up
good
pretty
part
good.
is I got my actual really strong coffee today, so we'll normally I drink like the decaf coffee at night, but now I get to actually have my real coffee when we do these videos, which is nice.
Yeah, so we've swapped from doing this late at night when I'm about to fall asleep to doing it early in the morning when I haven't quite woken up yet. So we'll see if we'll see if my old brain works any better or not.
Well, today we actually got some good ones. Obviously, people have heard probably Tucker Carlson's in Russia. Um, the border bill actually got stopped, or the open borders bill, as well as endless war funding bill got stopped. But before we get to any of that
I thought it
stuff,
was the Ukrainian border bill. Is what it looked like
it
to
might
me.
as
That's where all
well
the
have
money
been.
went. That's where all the money went.
It was it when it's like this much for Ukraine, then this much for the border, and even that doesn't even do anything for the border. But we'll get to that. First off, I do want to say this. One good news we got is we officially now know who the Republican candidate will be for the main election. And that is going to be Nikki Haley because she's the kind of candidate who will lose to absolutely no one. Oh, wait, I got to check my notes. Actually, no. She actually lost to no one. Sorry, I got that confused. Nikki Haley in Nevada, which of course I got to hit Nikki Haley because obviously I can't stand her. She actually lost because Trump was not on the ballot in the Nevada primary because they do a weird thing where they have the primary, but they also still have a caucus. It's really strange. But Trump was not on the ballot for the voters to vote on during the main primary section of it. And still, Nikki Haley, running basically unopposed, came in second, losing to none of the above, basically.
So so I'm a fan of Richard Pryor, and and he also co-wrote one of our favorite movies ever, Blazing Saddles, among all the other things Richard Pryor did.
50th anniversary was yesterday of that movie, too.
That's what had it on my mind. But did you also know that he was in a movie called Brewster's Millions, and he had to lose a certain amount of money, and he ended up running for office, and he got kind of a conscious and wanted to change it, so he had a campaign, none of the above, and everybody was voting for none of the above. So when that headline came out, the first thing I thought about was Richard Pryor, none of the above. So just look it up, watch the movie, you'll laugh. It's right up your alley.
Is it a movie I can watch with the kids present?
It's been a while, but I would think so.
That's the hard part these days is finding a movie I can watch with the kids sitting right there.
I can't. I mean, I don't think it's going to hold their attention enough that they'll.
No,
I
here's
would
here's the
imagine
funny
they'd
thing.
be playing with the racetrack or whatever else.
As funny as it is seeing Nikki Haley right here, none of the above got 61% of the vote. Has that really? Can you think of any time that's really happened in like a primary season like this?
No, I've never seen a
I,
headline like that before.
I have
So
never, I
it was
never even
funny.
thought it was possible. And frankly,
Well,
this
like I
actually
said,
gives me more
only in the
hope for the
movies.
future.
Yeah, only in the movies do you see a headline like that one.
32%. She's running unopposed and she gets 32%. And still, because they were still on the ballot, even though they dropped out. Of course, Mike Pence, Tim Scott. I want to know who the hell are voting for these people, though. Like, who's voting? Who are the 629 people voting for Tim Scott?
Well,
you know when I said we should take away the right to vote for some people, and all I'm kind of thinking is, are these the kind of people who just have not paid any attention whatsoever? Like,
well, they're back on the rumor train that he's up at the top for Trump's possible VP pick. So maybe they wanted to give him a boost.
Maybe, I don't know. I like Tim Scott. I like a lot of stuff he does. I'll be honest, I cannot listen to that man speak. There's something about the way he speaks. I cannot get through it. It just, that would be a weird one. That'd be a weird one. However, it's funny because a bunch of people say, of course, Trump needs to pick someone who's a minority to, of course, be VP of some kind. And all I'm thinking is, I don't know, Ramaswamy, Indian.
You won't let it go, will you? Once you get onto somebody that to the death, we're gonna stick with it.
We need Ramaswamy. That's who we need as VP, or at least a cabinet position. Just give him a cabinet position, all right? Just give him something, all right? He did a good job. send him out on the podcast circuit because that was one of the things he was excellent at.
Well, or just somewhere, maybe not your White House, whatever. What do we call what am I trying to think of? What's Karine Jean-Pierre? What's her title?
Oh, press secretary. Yeah.
So maybe not press secretary, but somewhere that he's handling the press all the time. See, I told you my brain's not going to work as good this early in the morning. But
where's your rooster cup? I mean, come on, that's.
No, I went with the other cup. With the way he talked about firing everybody, maybe make him budget director because he's had to manage an actual budget before with multiple businesses. So
you're saying that we should have someone in government who actually has prior experience in the private sector of actually proving themselves before they go off to any sort of elected office? And that sounds insane to me.
It's crazy. I know. Especially looking at how good all the lawyers and career politicians have done. I don't know why we'd look anywhere else.
Well, I will say this. This might go a little bit off topic. Well, I mean, we always go off topic, so who cares? Your guy, Ron DeSantis over there, since he got out of the election, he's been doing just some great work in Florida. Like, what was it with Ilhan Omar saying, she serves Somalia and not the United States? And he came out like just heavy against her. And I'm just there thinking, like, where was this dude during the primaries? Where was this dude during the actual debates and everything? Like, if he had been that from the get-go, it would have been so much better. But, like, he's been, like, pushing hard over there in Florida with some actually really good stuff. And just...
It's still insane that he's not going to be in the running for president. He was the only sane candidate.
Wait his turn. Wait his turn.
Only sane choice. And we were too stupid to know it. But what's funny is you say, since he's been back in Florida, look at all the great stuff. It's the same stuff he was doing ever since he's been governor of Florida. That was the argument for him all along. How does everybody not see it?
Well, because then he went out there and just didn't talk like that at all during the primary. If he talked like that in the primary, people would have loved him.
His the videos that he's doing now, where it's kind of just him, it doesn't look too produced or overly polished. It's following the rules of what might click on any social media platform. I don't know if he got new handlers or what, but you are right. His presence has improved since he got out. But he's doing the same things he's been doing all along. That didn't change.
Listen, he made the same mistake Trump made, where Trump, of course, brought the wrong people into the presidency with him. DeSantis brought the wrong people when it came to who was running his campaign. Like, he picked standard establishment people, and it just screwed him over. However, with the way he's been acting, and also just the fact of he did endorse Trump, I hope a lot of the Trump somewhat more cultists will actually be able to accept him later on down the line. I really do. And I am, again, I would much rather have someone like him than, of course, someone like Nikki Haley. So, and clearly, the Republicans in Nevada would rather have no one rather than Nikki Haley.
Well, you mentioned those early days of Trump. I swear, it felt like he was just had okay, there's a whole bunch of names. Let me just throw a dart and whoever it hits. All right, you're Secretary of Education, you're Secretary of Housing. It doesn't matter
His
because it
Secretary
was
of
some weird
Education was
choices
actually a
there
good
early on.
choice. That one was a good choice. She was like big into homeschooling and just hated all public education for the most part. Like that, he actually did a good job with that pick.
I was just naming departments. I
I know, I
wasn't
know.
calling anybody particular.
But yeah, I wanted to start off with this because I can't
You
stand Nikki
lost to
Haley,
nobody.
and I can't. I never knew it was even possible to lose to no one.
So
But again, none of this really matters because Nevada
Trump's
still is a
tweet
caucus
or
state.
Trump's tweet or whatever it was that obviously now she's going to claim she's the front runner or that she won, but he hit her pretty good over it too.
Well, I think she's already saying that Nevada's rigged and everything, and of course, she's an election denier, I guess now, which
Yeah,
is always
aren't
kind of
we
funny.
all? Aren't we all? It's amazing that every single day there's more convictions of fraud from 2020,
New Jersey just had
2022.
one. New
Every
Jersey
single
just
day there's a new evidence.
Yep. But with all that said, I just wanted to hit Nikki a bit more. I'm pretty sure at some other point I'll bring her back up because I think she said some dumb things during the whole board dispute. But let's get on to, I guess, probably the main thing that a lot of people are right now talking about. And that is, of course, Tucker Carlson going and interviewing Putin and actually could be facing sanctions and the EU over this. Because how dare we ever, go and try to figure out what, our quote unquote enemies are doing. And I use that in quotes because there has been no formal declaration of war when it comes to Russia whatsoever. Um, you know, this is fascinating to me watching the media freak out over this, all because this is the same media, mind you, who had no problem going to Russia when they were the Soviet Union and just praising the Soviet Union left and right. This is the same media who had no problem going to Fidel Castro and interviewing him. This is the same media who praises China daily. So they're more than happy going to complete, communist hellholes and sit there and praising, of course, all the atrocities that they commit. But when Tucker Carlson goes and just interviews Putin, and we haven't even seen the interview. The interview, I think, comes out later today, I think around like 6 o'clock.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, and we haven't even seen what it is, so we don't know if and it has to be somewhat of a fluff piece, obviously, since he is in Russia, and Putin
Yeah, it would
obviously
be
isn't
nice
going
to
to
get
sit
home.
there and do what?
Said it would be nice to know you could get home, so I wouldn't talk too much crap right to his face. I don't think.
Well, apparently he's already back, is what I heard. At least I think he's going to
Yeah,
be
I
back
did see.
before it releases, so that should be interesting to
Yeah,
see.
I did see that too.
There was a funny
One of the part
comment
one.
of them saying, "Quick, we can't let Tucker Carlson back in the country. We need to stop him from getting back here." And they go, "Mr. President, he's already here. How is that even possible?" And it shows Tucker Carlson just running across the border.
Yeah, I saw that right before we got started. I was going to say that was funny. But yeah, you go over there. You got to measure your words to some degree. But the other part about it, you mentioned the mainstream. At least a half a dozen, if not more, mainstream media outlets have interviewed Putin through the years, and
Yeah.
it,
Well, that was
it's just
before
kind of
he
dumb.
invaded Ukraine.
Well, and you said the EU. We might dig a little bit into that because it seemed like it was just one or two people, not like the whole EU trying to do anything yet. But it always starts with one or two
That's
knuckleheads that create a
yeah.
bunch of trouble. But the other thing is apparently Ukraine has them on a hit list.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah. Well, because I mean, as much people want to sit there and try to defend Ukraine, and though I mean they are they're playing defense right now. I mean, I think it's safe to say Russia is the bad guys for wanting to invade, but Ukraine isn't a good place either. Like we need to be real about this. Like Ukraine's not good guys. I mean, it's kind of like Germany facing the Soviet Union. Neither of them were really good. They were both evil, evil, evil countries. It's just which one is going to benefit us the most to side with. Like that's kind of how it works. And
It's
Ukraine,
it's tough. It's tough because it's like every other country. They're filled with a lot of good people that are just getting caught in
oh
the
yeah,
crosshairs. Um, because you know some of the mission stuff that I'm a part of. we've got people going into Ukraine and helping some of the refugees that are coming in and out. And they didn't ask for this sort of thing, just like the Ukrainians didn't ask to be starved to death during Stalin, right? Um, so when we say things like this, we're talking about the government and the leaders and the corruption at those kind of levels, rather than just some blanket statement that all Ukrainians are bad. That's not where we are. But the government is corrupt as all get out, and was filled with quite literal Nazis. And one of the most interesting things that may come from the interview is when we found out what Putin knows about bioweapons labs that were based in the Ukraine.
Yes, exactly. Which what was it? I think there was like 5 of them that were there, right? I mean, it was a few of them.
Yeah, now can we believe what he says? I don't know, but at least I'd like to have the information to weigh.
Well, it's funny because so when we look at here, because just you would think we should want to know about our supposed enemies, right? The people who are out there actually causing some problems. It's kind of good to actually get some information about why they're doing what they're doing. That way, because here's the thing, the media always has this problem, and we do this a lot of times throughout history when it comes to wars, where we paint the bad guy as like some sort of madman, right? Like, oh, they were just lunatics and they were just pure evil. But the reality is that when you do that, it kind of sets you up for disaster later on, because you don't realize how easy it is to A, fall into the same traps they fell into, or B, it makes you underestimate who they actually are. Putin is not just a madman. He's a very intelligent, very smart man who has a reason for what he's doing. And if we don't understand that reason, we have no way of properly being able to counter it, right? So you would think having an interview with him like this would actually be probably a good thing depending on how it goes. But the media, man, it has been, you have this right here, of course, CNN. Tucker Carlson is in Russia to interview Putin. He's already doing the bidding of the Kremlin. You have Washington Post. Putin interviews with Tucker Carlson shows the Kremlin's outreach to the Trump's GOP. And it's just more and more. The Hill. Tucker Carlson doing Putin's bidding with upcoming interview.
Good old Joe Scarborough. The MSNBC's Republican because at one point he was a Republican.
It is crazy how much they're hitting on him. Again, when this is also, again, the same media who would carry water, all day and night for people like Castro, right? It's astounding that, again, the same media who would praise every communist, every communist country around the world, despite all of their atrocities, they're upset because he's doing one single interview. But the interesting thing that's going to come from here for sure is the fact of it might actually expose some people to the reality of why this war is happening. I mean, this idea that, oh, the war is happening because Russia just evil, Ukraine just innocent good guy, is the most idiotic thing ever. There's a reason for wars. There's a reason why wars happen. Right? And it seems to be that he probably wants that warm water port that's over kind of a bit towards the east of Ukraine, right? Because you have that warm water port that will enable him to trade with all of their other trade partners, especially in the Middle East, because they've started setting up BRICS, and all that. And it makes sense for why they want it. And don't forget, this has been going on for a long time. I mean, it started under Obama, right? They started invading Ukraine originally under Obama, not under, of course, they did nothing under Trump. They actually backed off under Trump. But under Obama and Biden's when they first started invading Ukraine. It's when they first started making a lot of these moves. And then, of course, Obama, Biden, and Hillary gave them the, the big red reset button, and then sold them a bunch of nukes.
That was Hillary's diplomacy.
That was a funny video, too, because Putin just was like, what the hell is all this about? Like, he just... But it is funny that, of course, Biden was still associated with the group that ended up selling Russia a bunch of uranium to make nukes with, and then of course now they're now we're all blaming Trump for it all. But
so now that we're talking, now that you brought up idiotic leftist diplomacy, my mind went immediately to, and now James Taylor.
Oh my God, that might have been the most. Okay, for those of you who don't remember, during the Obama administration, there was a terrorist attack. It was in France, right?
Yeah,
wasn't that what it was?
It was the newspaper that did the cartoon.
The Hebdo shooting. that took place?
Yeah, I
Charlie
think so.
Hebdo?
I believe. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So terrorists went, shot the newspaper for printing a political cartoon that involved the picture of Muhammad, right? Because how dare they, right? And it was John Kerry that went there and said like, "Oh, we are so sorry for this happening, and to show our support, here is James Taylor." And James Taylor gets up there and starts singing like, "You got a friend in me," or some like bullshit. Like it just
that's, that's not James Taylor, but that's so funny. That's the song you went to. You went to Toy
listen,
Story.
I've been watching a lot of Toy Story and everything with the kids.
Oh man.
Oh, it was the weirdest. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in politics. I just
Yeah,
could not imagine just going up to a country that just lost, that many people due to a terrorist attack and going, now here's James Taylor. And that's going to be the way you're trying to say like, hey, we're supporting you.
It was a lot of press, just a real big televised uh, diplomatic event. That's what made it even funnier.
Oh,
But then the
man.
reset button was funny because it's like, well, we went to Staples and just got rid of the easy off the button and put something else on it. And then and then when they gave like the set, they gave the Queen a set of DVDs that
Yeah.
were in American format that she couldn't even use if she thought it was a reasonable gift.
Yeah, and didn't he give us like this beautiful like bust of like one of our presidents, and we gave them a bunch of
Yeah.
DVDs? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Good old leftist.
it's amazing. It's amazing they get away with that constantly. Meanwhile, Trump, of course, throws some fish food inappropriately, they said, at a koi pond in Japan, and they make a big deal about that. Even though, of course, they cropped the president of, I think they call it president of Japan out of the frame, so you don't see that he was doing the exact same thing.
He was doing the same thing.
Because they were like, well, Trump just dumped all of the food in the thing, out of the bucket. And it's like, if you zoomed out, so did the president of Japan. And then that's when Trump. Obviously, the media lies left and right.
Yeah.
Which is why I think they're scared of someone like.
Circling back to where we are with Tucker.
Yes.
We'll see how that ends up as far as the interview goes. But it should be, it should be immensely interesting no matter what.
No matter what, even if it does turn out to be like he can't really ask any real questions because he is in Russia, it will be interesting just to kind of see how Putin tries to justify what he's doing, because it's going to come up, obviously. And obviously, you have to take everything he says with a huge thing of salt because, they're the ones attacking Ukraine. But I really do hope it's kind of going to hopefully open up some people's eyes about the fact of, okay, there's actually a reason for wars that are beyond just, hey, I'm the bad guy, I'm going to go kill a bunch of people. He's probably not going to go out and just say, well, we really wanted that trade port to make sure we could get, to our allies. I don't think he's going to be that direct, but at the very least, he'll probably be, I don't know, he'll probably drop a hint. The best lie is with a little bit of truth, and so it'll be interesting to see how much of that truth he adds into the lies.
I think I might be most interested just to watch Tucker's demeanor and his style for this one, because usually if he's with someone who's going to be sort of an antagonist, his style. He'll ask questions leading them to the answer he knows they want to give, so that he can ridicule the answer and laugh at them and kind of in his own way illustrate absurdity by letting them show their absurdity, right? And so is he going to use that same kind of a surreptitious style of interview, or is it going to be more of a straight interview? Is he going to use his famous Tucker laugh at Putin? Or so just the mechanics of how the interview goes is going to be fun to watch.
I can't wait for the Freedom Tunes episode to come out of Putin and Tucker Carlson. That'll be good.
Yes, so it's going to be interesting.
The thing is
for a lot of reasons, content's going to be fascinating, and Putin's demeanor. I've never seen him anything. He's every time you've ever seen him, it's the exact same way. And
that's KGB.
But I think you're right. Yeah, I know KGB. Some of the pictures from the 80s and all, when Reagan was around, and you see him as a younger guy, it's exactly the same.
He looks like a KGB officer in those 80s pictures, even when he's trying to act like a civilian.
I think you're onto something though about you can't just label somebody a madman and say that's the motivation. There's something else going on, and most Americans and surely the news media has never taken 1 second to try to determine, okay, what really are the geopolitical rationale for making an invasion and doing this when they did. But if you listen to him talk, and whether he speaks for most Russians or not, I don't know. But he says they're still part of Russia. They've never stopped seeing that part of the world as part of Russia.
Well, and also don't forget, the only reason they gave up Ukraine is because we made a deal with them saying we would not expand NATO any further if they gave up Ukraine. And then we expanded NATO even further right afterwards. I mean, if you want to sit there and say who's responsible for this, I'm not saying I'm not saying they shouldn't take the responsibility for the fact they went and invaded and killed a bunch of people. What I'm saying is we do have some of the blame here. I mean, we honestly do. We reneged on the deal first. They gave up Ukraine, honoring their end of the deal, and then we didn't honor our end of the deal and instead still tried to expand NATO past where we agreed to. So what do you expect to happen? Why should they keep honoring the deal? Now, obviously, I think they should honor the deal for the fact of Ukraine wanted to be independent, and as an American, if someone wants to be independent, I'm kind of for it, right? If Texas ends up deciding they want to be an independent nation, heck yeah, go for it. I believe in the consent of the governed. However, we have to also be just honest about the realities of the situation, and that is, why would Russia honor that end of the deal if we're not going to honor ours? If they feel the NATO alliance is going to be encroaching on them, they see what we're doing to Iran. They see the fact that, of course, we surround Iran with military bases all around it to one day, of course, go to war with them. And they see us doing basically the same exact thing on their doorstep. Why wouldn't they want to create a bigger buffer zone and actually make sure that we can't do that to them in Ukraine? Because, I mean, if we did put up a bunch of military bases in Ukraine and make them part of the NATO alliance, well, there goes their access to any sort of freshwater trade ports. It makes no sense for them not to really take Ukraine, unfortunately. And it's mostly because of, in a lot of ways, and I maybe shouldn't say mostly, but in a lot of ways, it is because of us. And it's
So
part of the fact of
your first instinct in talking about this was to go to this interview may get into a deeper reasoning for why. What's the real motivation? What's the geopolitical reasoning for doing this? What's our odds that we're going to get an answer to that? What do you think?
I think it's going to be 70% lie with about 30% truth. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I think he's going to play up the whole thing about the Nazis in Ukraine, which is true. There definitely were large amounts of Nazis in Ukraine. But why would that really matter to him? That's kind of my thing. Like, I think that's kind of just a BS reason that you can toss out because well, I mean, let's face it, everyone hates Nazis for good reason. So you can kind of just toss that out there. He'll probably say, of course, there was, Americans got involved and changed the results basically of the referendum in certain parts of Ukraine that wanted to realign themselves with Russia. That there's truth to that, 100%. But if you don't think Russia was also getting involved, well, that's also kind of stupid, right? Obviously, I don't think we should have been involved, but we did overthrow the Ukrainian government that was sympathetic to Russia, right? Like, we did directly get involved with that. So again, I think it's going to be about maybe 30% truth mixed with like 70%, their kind of own propaganda with it. But it should be interesting for sure.
With that logic and thinking 30% truth, is there a thread of truth in the mainstream media saying that his goal is going to be to subvert and turn Americans against America and Ukraine?
What, that he's going to try to turn Americans against the Ukrainian war?
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I kind of hope he would.
But he'd be a fool not to, right? And so the fact that they're saying that that's his goal, of course it is. We have to be smart enough to try to discern what's real and what's not. And used to that's what we were allowed to do. They don't want us to be allowed to do that anymore. But there's going to have to be some discernment, and the Trump mafia out there, there's no telling which way it's going to go from where they're going to take it.
Well, I mean, when it comes to the,
So wait a minute. That here I am being the old establishment guy again, talking about the Trump mafia. But man, the Trump Twitter mafia is for real.
It really is. No, I mean, well, again, there's some people. Listen, whatever Trump says, they'll do, right? If Trump says jump, they'll say how high. They have no problem with that. Obviously, I mean, Trump's been pushing to try to get us not involved with it, but at the same time, Trump's policy, it's speak loudly and carry an even bigger stick. He's all about just pushing things as far as it goes. So it'll be interesting to see how he would handle the whole Putin situation. I mean, to be honest, at this point, I still say it should just be, hey, y'all took the land y'all wanted. Let's just cut it here. Stop it from here on. No more crossing this side of the border kind of deal. Because let's face it, you're not going to push Russia off that land at this point, right? They took what they wanted to take. There's a reason why they haven't had any major pushes into Ukraine since. Would they want Kiev? Of course they would want Kiev. It was the old capital of Russia. It has a lot of historical importance to them. Are they really caring that much about it? I doubt it, because I think they mostly want the ports. I don't think they really care that much about anything else. But it will be interesting to see if Trump gets elected, how he'll actually end up dealing with Putin, because as far as I'm concerned, we just need to find a way just to, for one, normally I'm not the just de-escalate type person, but we need to de-escalate. We just need to kind of say, hey guys, let's figure this out here in another way, because we do not need to keep sending over, of course, obviously this much money, this much funds, and possibly lead to World War III over I guess you would call it a second world nation. I'm not sure if Ukraine can classify as a first world nation, but they're above third world, but they're still not really
I've ever heard you advocate
level.
for diplomacy.
Yeah, exactly. Which is funny. I'm not normally the advocate for diplomacy type person, but
so this is weird, but it kind of bothers me, and this will be where the commenters on our videos that call me old will see I am old. But for all these years that I've been around, it was Kiev, just like you just said. Why do they call it Kiev now? and has it always been Kiev? And I didn't know.
No. It's because I was going to say, jackass liberals want to sit there and try to make themselves seem better than everyone else. It's why they'll sit there and try to pronounce all these Middle Eastern names with their proper pronunciation, which they practiced in front of a mirror like 70 times before they came out and actually said it. So now they're actually doing the same thing with Ukraine to make themselves seem more intelligent than they really are. It's like those same people who tried to go and look up synonyms for the words they're using so you can add exaggerated long words just to make them seem more intelligent than they really are. It's just a common leftist thing to do.
I might could learn a lesson from that, because I rolled right out of bed and couldn't even think of a press secretary a while ago. So maybe a little bit of prep time would have helped.
That's just because it's early in the morning. But yeah, so should be interesting to see what happens with Russia, I guess, with the Tucker Carlson interview, though. But you are right. I mean, Putin is definitely going to try to do what he can to convince Americans not to be involved, which, again, I don't think we should be, so I really don't care if he does that. But it will be interesting to see how much of it's lies versus how much of it is truth sprinkled in to justify those lies. So, because, again, we're both on the same page. Neither of us like Russia, obviously.
Yeah. His end game is obviously to lay enough landmines that it causes some dysfunction and some disagreements among all of us, and among not just us, but all the people allied against Russia. And so he's going to be laying some landmines for dissension. We know that. Again, we have to be smart enough to use discernment to know what's a landmine and what's not. And
again, we have to treat him seriously in the sense that
he's not a madman.
To be honest, he's one of the most intelligent leaders on earth right now. Again, I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying he is one of the most intelligent men on earth. And until you acknowledge that, we will never be able to find a solution around it. If you just treat him like he's a madman, then the only way to deal with a madman is to go to war. There's no real solution there. But we have this bad habit of doing that every single time there's like a great evil leader, where we always end up just considering them just an evil lunatic instead of actually acknowledging the fact of, yes, they're evil, but they're more of an evil genius, right?
It's really good we don't do that to our own domestic foes that we're up against, because it would be terrible to call all of your domestic foes by some derogatory name and paint some caricature of a picture like deplorable or
just about to say that'd be a deplorable thing to do.
Or something like. Wouldn't that be awful if we were doing this to our own internal political foes?
Well, talk about lying about your political foes. I guess we can go ahead and move on over to here. The border bill, or the endless wars and open border bill, actually did get stopped in the Senate, which actually kind of surprised me. I really thought it was going to get pushed through the Senate and Congress was going to have to step up. But by 49 to 50, it was actually stopped, which is funny because a lot of people who were, a lot of the Republicans who were responsible for designing this disaster of a bill ended up voting against it, which is funny. I think it was Mitch McConnell actually ended up voting against it. Mitch McConnell actually voted against it, despite the fact that he wasn't a major player, obviously, in getting the bill designed in the first place. And
so we have a lot of fun poking at Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Is his cognitive decline any worse than Mitch McConnell's?
yes, but Mitch McConnell's still really bad. He had remember that time he had almost like a stroke on TV, basically.
Yeah, that happened a couple of times. Just
Yeah.
freezing.
I mean, him and Nancy Pelosi also had a couple. What was that whole thing where it was like, "Good morning, Sunday morning"? Like after she gets asked a question, it kind of starts like going a bit crazy for a moment. Like it was really kind of creepy. I mean, Nancy Pelosi's creepy as is, but I mean, Mitch McConnell's definitely up there though. Like he needs to. It's amazing, Kentucky. All right, y'all sit there and get someone like Rand Paul, but then you get Mitch McConnell. Like, how are you so bipolar? I don't get it. There couldn't be a bigger difference.
And then a Democrat governor that's a nutball as well. I mean, what's going on? What's going on in Kentucky? There's some weird stuff in their bluegrass. I don't know what they're smoking over there.
There's like those states that just are really strange states at times, and I feel like Kentucky's one of them. Utah's definitely another one, but I love Utah, but it's definitely another one of those ones that's just kind of weird with the way everyone just kind of handles things.
We need to do it. We need to do a whole show just on national parks and places we've hiked. When you say Utah, I have nothing but love for Utah. Those parks and that's just so beautiful.
That's it. You have nothing but love for the landscape of Utah.
Yeah. Well, and the people and the people that are actual real people that live there have been pretty awesome to me as well.
Yeah, they can also be kind of strange at times too, I'll be honest. So something about the Mormons up in Utah, I don't know, it's kind of creepy at times. But we got 49 to 50 actually, so it did manage to get stopped. And it's funny, we sit there and I said it's the endless wars and open border bill. And the reason is because, and it's the thing, it says right here, $70 billion in foreign aid and $20 billion for the southern border. Now, a couple things. $60 billion was going over to Ukraine, while $10 billion, or I think it's actually more than this, because I think it was $60 billion going to Ukraine, and it was like $15 billion going over to Israel, right?
Yeah.
And then the funny thing was, then it was like what was it, 10 or so million that were going over to Gaza. Because, we're going to fund both sides of this little conflict, I guess, which isn't too uncommon. But the funny thing is, even if you took all of that out, the $20 billion for the border, this isn't $20 billion to secure the border. This is $20 billion to actually process more people at the border to bring into the country. All right, so when we looked at the bill, for one, the people it said it would stop, it would not count people who don't come from places that are directly connected to the United States. So if you're coming from way down south and cross through Mexico, you're not counted in the people that we're supposed to stop according to this bill. All right, so they say in the bill, you can only accept 5,000 people a day. Well, for one, that's 5,000 people too many. Two, that only is for Mexican and Canadian citizens for the most part. Any country that is not directly connected to the United States borders does not count for that number and can be let in by any number they decide. It also moves all their court cases over to D.C., which means now D.C. has full control over who's allowed to be in our country and who's not allowed to be in our country. And it sits there and makes it so the states are no longer able to get involved when it comes to helping secure the border as well. It does nothing to secure the border at all. There's no border security in this bill whatsoever. Instead, it literally just.
Wait a minute. Don't you understand? if we set a number 5,000, the people that are just streaming through without going to the places where you could be counted, they're going to stop doing that.
Oh yeah, right.
That's how this works. Don't
They're
you
gonna
know
go
that?
through like one of those little what's the things that I'm not sure what you call them out in amusement parks that just like click and
Yeah,
have the numbers
turnstile.
going.
Yeah,
Yeah, turnstile. Yeah. You
it's
can't
got a
remember
little
press
number on
secretary.
it.
I
Once it
can't
gets
remember turnstile.
once that number gets to 5,000, the turnstile just locks up. They can't get
Everyone
over
just
after
goes,
that.
ah, shucks, I'll try tomorrow.
Yeah. Luckily, I'll be first in line tomorrow morning.
All right, kids, we got to get up early so we can make it into the country.
There was so much stupid, and why do they have to continually put poison pills in any bill that comes up? Why do we have to combine multiple things that have no relation to one another? I mean, it should have been called the Ukrainian border bill or the Gaza border bill because it
Yeah.
was more for that than it was for the U.S. But it's just so dumb. It was so dumb from the beginning, and the fact that key Republicans signed on to it up front tells you what the establishment Republican Party is all about. It's a uniparty for sure.
It 100% is. Again, this is one of the things that was the big problem with, was it Kevin McCarthy when he was in Congress, leading Congress? It was the fact of, he said obviously that if he was leading Congress, that there would be no, that there would be no omnibus. I can't say that word very well at all. Say it for me.
Omnibus.
Thank you. Bills, where they combined everything into one, and that everything will be voted on individually instead, which totally makes sense. It's amazing this isn't just a default standard for all bills, but it just unfortunately isn't. They always have tried to do this because the way they end up getting things passed, they'll name it the Protect Puppies bill and then slide in there, hey, by the way, we're going to send, $60 million over to Saudi Arabia. It's what they've always done. Now, what kills me about it is it's always the Democrats doing it, and the Republicans never do the inverse, right? The Republicans never look at the Democrat bill and say, hey, why don't we slide in defund ATF? They never do that in the opposite way. It's always the Democrats doing it, and then us just saying, well, we have to always compromise. We have to work together, guys. When both sides don't like the bill, it's a good bill, and all that BS. When the reality is, no, you don't have to compromise with stupid things. If someone says, hey, I'll make you a deal, I'll fix your car, but I'm also going to rob your house, you don't go, well, I guess we have to compromise on something here. No, you sit there and say, what the hell are you talking about? No, and you leave it at that. But the Democrats are the ones who always try to go and poison these bills, and it's never the other way around. It just is insane how all this system seems to work. And the Republicans just lay there and take it almost all the time. And I'm so happy we're actually getting to a point now where Republicans are actually fighting back finally when it comes to this stuff. Which obviously throwing out Kevin McCarthy, I think was still a good start. But
well, let's go back. Well, not when you don't have a plan of what's going to happen after that, because it's not a whole lot better. We just have a more conservative person that's not getting anything done.
Yeah, but I like it when nothing gets done.
Votes.
I love gridlock.
oh, I do too. I meant positive for things that we want to get done. He's unable to stop anything. He can't get the votes because there's enough establishment Republicans in the House that they block anything. You've got the most egregious dereliction of duty ever that I've ever seen in a cabinet secretary, and you've got Republicans that won't agree to impeach the guy. And so what's the point of changing leadership if you've got that kind of uniparty to lead it?
So I would say the benefit of changing leadership at that point is everyone can see who voted against. And I'll pull it up because I actually have it right here because this is, again, it shows the incompetence of the Republican Party to an extreme degree, that they failed to impeach Mayorkas despite his complete failure when it comes to, not just failure, they say it's a failure of handling the border. No, it's him actively assisting cartel members and smuggling people and drugs into this country. It is actively undermining the laws of this country. Not only should he be impeached, but he should be imprisoned. And it's as simple as that. All the people who are higher up who are responsible for the situation at the border currently should be in jail. It should not be it shouldn't be you lose your job. It should be you go to jail because they are directly undermining the very laws of this country while at the same time working hand in hand with cartel members to smuggle people into the country illegally. So, I mean, you want to talk about a middle ground? This is the middle ground. Impeachment is the middle ground. Just throwing them out is the middle ground. The actual good choice would be to imprison them. But hey, we'll settle with the middle ground if we can get the impeachment, except for the fact of, like you said, we can't even get the damn impeachment anymore. Or not anymore, just ever.
The argument from the Republicans voting against this thing is that, oh, he's just carrying out the orders of the president. Yeah.
That's
so.
If you get an illegal order, it's your responsibility to say no.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just ridiculous. But the other thing, the other incompetence of the Republicans, while we're on this issue, is the border is a seminal issue for the upcoming election. It was one that the Republicans should easily win. There's no way you can lose this. They've almost completely lost the narrative over these two things that we're just bringing up now.
And here's the thing.
That's how dumb and incompetent they are. So
the people who stopped the impeachment from happening that were on the Republican side, Ken Buck from Colorado, which, again, Colorado, really far left state, Tom McClintock from California, and Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin. Now, on the list is Blake Moore, but I will say this. They didn't want to be I guess, if it's a stalemate of the vote, then it's, for some reason, they can't ever proceed with it in the future. There was something when it comes to just the way the procedure works. So they had Blake Moore actually vote against it. That way it just lost instead of tied. That way they could then bring it up later in the future to hopefully impeach him later on. So if people see Blake Moore on there, don't...
Supposedly when Scalise comes back, go after him. They'll have the votes by one vote.
Gotcha. So yeah, I've seen Blake Moore quoted on a couple other reports saying that he was among the people who voted against the impeachment, but he only did so because he was told to do so to make sure they could bring it up at a later date. The people who you need to get on, again, Kim Buck, Tom McClintock, Mike Gallagher, all of them need to be thrown out. I mean, any Republican who votes for those people in the future, you're also to blame. How on earth can you sit there and not vote to impeach at that point? I mean, to be honest, though, let's face it, they should have voted to impeach Biden, years ago when he directly even said, I don't care what the Supreme Court says, I'm going to try to impose vax mandates on the populace regardless. I mean, the amount of things you can impeach him for are numerous. And then I know people will say, oh, well, then you get Kamala Harris. So impeach her too. I mean, you don't think the left is going to try to do the same thing later down the road? Let's actually play the game they're playing. Let's actually get real about this now. But so again, Republicans, they don't...
Speaker Johnson will tell you, because he says this anytime he gets a chance, that the impeachment process against Biden is going exactly the way it's supposed to. They're being diligent. They're being all these things that they're supposed to be to do it the right way. It's in all three committees that it's supposed to be in. It's progressing through exactly to the letter of the law and all these things. Again, was it by the letter of the law the way Trump was treated? Were those impeachments by the letter of the law? The Democrats play to win. They don't give a crap about the letter of the law or anything else. They play to win, and Republicans play to get along, and that's the definition of our uniparty.
Republicans don't ever want to rock the boat. That's the issue. And the thing is, this whole country was founded on the idea of definitely rocking the damn boat. I mean, come on. We're America. That's supposed to be what we're about. But unfortunately, too many Republican politicians still see the Democrats as, we're just friends who disagree. I want less taxes. He wants more taxes. But we all get along. It's like, no, these are the kind of people right now who hate and despise you beyond mention. These are the kind of people who will gladly throw you in jail if they have the chance. These are the kind of people who, frankly, would. I really think if chips were down, they would have no problem saying, hey, you know what? If we could get away with it, put them in camps and just do what the Soviets did to their, dissidents, basically. They would have no problem with any of that at this point. These are no longer...
We've got evidence of that.
Yes, 100%. We have evidence. We have states we have states actually kidnapping children from their parents because their parents won't trans them. I mean, what more do you want at this point? It is unreal.
Heaven forbid if you walk through the velvet ropes of the Capitol when you're not supposed to and you're on the right side of things. How about those political prisoners?
Well, I'm going. Let's go ahead and actually jump to something that I was going to talk about last week, I think, but we kind of got caught up and weren't able to do it. But you want to talk about just insane crap the Democrats are doing? How about putting some pro-life demonstrators in jail for 11 years for protesting outside of abortion clinic? Now, here's the thing. Admittedly, they were blocking the entrance to the abortion clinic. All right, they were entirely blocking the entrance, which I will say, you shouldn't be blocking the entrance to private establishments like that. Yes, that is a crime. I have no problem saying that. But 11 years? And it's a misdemeanor at best is what it should be. It should be you block the entrance to a private establishment. Here's your fine. Go about your day, basically. But no, 11 years in federal prison for a bunch of moms and dads who simply don't want you to kill children.
Now you block the interstate, I'm all for just running over you. So don't block that.
Well, because we've gone over that one. That one is sheer just you're holding people against their will at that point. So.
But it wasn't just this one for 11 years. But how about if you cut the head off of a statue of Satan, you get a hate crime instead of just.
I had that one from yesterday or from last week too. Actually, I don't think I have it pulled up right now, but yeah, the guy who's cut off the head of the statue, the Satan statue over in what state was it? Was it Tennessee?
No, it was Iowa.
Iowa, that's right, Iowa. Yeah, he's being charged with a hate crime because apparently you can't hate Satan. Yet the whole point of them putting up the Satan statue was literally to antagonize Christians at that point. I mean, the Satanic Temple is a hate group in the sense of they specifically have designed themselves around hating Christians. But somehow, of course, cutting the head off. Again, I have no problem charging him with a crime. I have no problem with it. All right, but it should be, again, here's your fine. Just don't do it again.
Misdemeanor property damage.
Yes. For one, I'm against hate crimes in general. I mean, I'll be honest. That's the first.
But
thing.
I'll tell you what. I'm not against. I'm not for that being a crime at all. If you can come in and burn the American flag and it's free speech, that was just free speech.
I have for a long time wanted to make a video just to prove a point, but I don't want to get banned off all social media either. Where just take an American flag, light it on fire. Then take the gay pride flag and light it on fire and see which one people get more upset over. Because I guarantee you, people on the right will go, all right, you're a jackass for burning the American flag. That's wrong. You shouldn't do it. And they'll kind of leave it at that. Man, you'll get taken off of every social media platform, though, if you even remotely harmed a gay pride flag. It is absolutely insane. And it's funny because, I've had videos that go on TikTok and stuff like that where I've said, basically someone literally advocating for sheer genocide of all those who disagree with them. And that'll be allowed up there. But I'll make a joke about them either being overweight or maybe make like a gay joke. And then that one is what gets suspended. They're allowed to advocate for whatever the hell they want to advocate. If we even remotely say anything bad about, of course, the gay pride stuff or anything like that, well, we're the ones who get taken off social media. It is.
YouTube wasn't allowing you to go live based on the title of your lives that you were going live with.
Yeah, and it wasn't anything too terrible either. I think I had the word fatty or something like that in there and stuff like that. I had to change the verbiage. I think I had to change like overweight, and it let me go live. But again,
this one bugs me to no end. The double standard in the legal system right now is just absolutely ridiculous. Which we talk about that pretty much every week. Because we've gone back to John Adams and our legal history and the way things happen, and there's been good and bad throughout, right?
Yep.
But usually, used to the double standard was as long as you had enough money, you could get away with anything. That was always the double standard. Now it's completely just what's your ideological belief and what jurisdiction are you being tried in. There's no governing legal standard throughout the country that you have any idea of being treated fairly.
Well, this is why I sit there and say I don't know if there is a way we can fully heal because, we mentioned back then, like even during the Civil War, we still had a certain set of values that we could unite on after the fact. Like it was tough, obviously, but there was still something there. Now there is literally nothing. I do not know how anyone who is like over where we live, it would ever supposed to be able to unite with someone over like in New York or California, like one of these crazy leftists. I do not see any bit of values that we could even remotely come together on at all anymore. And that is a terrifying thing. But I mean,
Well,
here's the thing. You look at you look at what these people are being charged with here. Conspiracy charge punished with 10.5 or 10 and a half years in prison, 3 years supervised release, and fines up to $260,000, all for blocking an abortion clinic. Meanwhile, while that was happening, not while that was happening, but before that was happening, no one was ever held accountable when they were illegally protesting outside the Supreme Court justices' homes during the Roe v. Wade debates. When that was going on, and again, it's illegal to protest outside of a judge's home because, again, you're trying to, in a way, you're kind of threatening them to rule a certain way. It's one of the few cases that we have where you're not allowed to protest. Totally illegal, and yet the government did nothing. They had no problem when leftists were actively just illegally protesting outside of Supreme Court justices' homes. Multiple people tried to assassinate the Supreme Court justices and were caught. And never was it stopped. Not a single person in this crowd was ever arrested for their crimes. But what do you know? Some mom and pops who got together and saying holy, holy, holy outside of an abortion clinic are getting 11 damn years in prison.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And
how are
so many of these examples that we can go to. Since you went to this one, has there been any type of punishment for the leaker of the Dobbs decision?
Nope.
Has there been any type of punishment for the leaker of Trump's financial tax information? It never happens. One side can do anything they want to their political rivals. They can do anything they want as long as you have the right ideological bent. Then you can get away with almost anything at this point. And that leads right to the one the story I told you about this morning. You can be a molester of babies and not go to prison if you're trans.
They go pull that up
in
right
Kentucky.
Here.
In Kentucky.
Yep. So right here in Kentucky, someone who
the hell is
going
on?
A baby. I mean, I have to try and make sure like I hold back what I really want to say for YouTube because you can't advocate for certain things that should be common sense. Will receive no jail time at all because they won't be able to get their transgender medicine while in jail. So let's see, I have it right over here. The trans man in Kentucky reached a plea deal after being charged with abusing a child. Will avoid prison so long as he meets certain conditions. What condition could you possibly meet to allow this person outside ever again for the rest of their life?
Well, I got to be careful what I say, but wood chippers come to mind.
Yes, exactly. Listen, I understand why some people are against the death penalty in the sense of, can you really trust the government to properly execute it? I understand that position, but people like this are kind of the reason why I still lean to possibly having it. But it's funny. This person right here is
having it. It should be. I mean, it should be common sense to have it. And it's, oh, you're pro-life, but you're pro-death penalty. You're fighting against yourself. No, I'm not. I'm pro-innocent life.
Yeah, exactly. You defend innocent life, and again, this actually kind of rolls, I guess, to an interesting idea of justice in general. There's the whole debate, of course, why do we have prisons in the first place? Why do we have the system we have in place? Is it for rehabilitation? Is it to separate them out of society? What's the whole reason why? And the real reason is because justice has to be punitive, right? You have to have some form of punishment. It's not just for rehabilitation. It's not just for taking them out of society. It's also because if you harm someone, you kind of have to be harmed in return, okay? It is what it is. That is what justice is. It just needs to be, it has to be in relation to the crime. Obviously, stealing, maybe losing your hand might be a little too much. But in cases like this, what's within reason versus the crime they committed?
So I never dreamed I would live in a country in a world where a headline would say what this headline says: avoids
Yes.
prison after sexually abusing a baby during a diaper change.
Now, and
Are
here's the
you
thing.
freaking kidding me? How
Well,
can that even be a thing? How is the community not uprising and putting an end to this kind of crap? It's unbelievable. This one made me madder than anything I've seen in the last, I don't know how long. And
oh yeah,
and and we've
and
seen similar things, but this one is just
you look at it is a
unreal.
long. So when I was trying to look up this story to save up here, I came across like three others that were basically the same general thing happening. Not at that young of an age, but still happening consistently. Mostly through teachers in the public school system, obviously, because that's just the way it works. Unfortunately, you know, we hire loons now to run the education of our children. But here's the thing: how can you look at someone like this and say, you know what, I'm going to make them a daycare worker? And people say, you know, well, what's the harm in accepting people for who they are and all this? No, I'm sorry. Some people are a bit loony, and you can use your common sense in deciding whether or not they should be around kids. All right, if you're a grown man wearing a dress and acting like this, then I'm sorry, you clearly have some mental issues. I'm not saying every one of them is going to cause something like this. What I am saying is that you know they have some mental issues. Don't allow them around children. It's as simple as that. And it used to be that'll just be common sense. If you saw a man riding around on a bicycle, you know, naked through Portland, which is what you have now because they do those naked bike rides, which I don't know how that's not considered indecent exposure, but it used to be when you saw someone do that, you would go, all right, kids, let's get away here because this person's clearly insane. Now it's, oh, would you look at that? Isn't that a unique way to live? These things do have repercussions. And it's amazing that we're at a point where we can't just look at this person and say, yeah, you're not working in a daycare.
So one of the last times, this is a little off topic, but your Portland comment made me think about it. One of the last times I was hiking in Washington, we were out toward Mount Adams on a trail, and this dude comes hiking by, and he's hiking on this mountain trail wearing nothing but a neon lime green banana hammock.
That sounds like Oregon.
This was Washington. The crunchies are in both states, I guess. But that was one of the most unique things I've ever seen on a mountain trail for sure.
That can't be comfortable. What about ticks?
I don't know. I guess it's easier to spot them and when they get on you. But he had like a little day pack on and that lime neon green banana hammock. That was his entire hiking outfit.
Oh man. Well, let's move to something that's a bit more, maybe a bit more fun here.
Well,
because
that last one made me absolutely.
I'm about to say, if I stick on this one, then I'm
irate.
going to be, I'm going to say things I shouldn't say. This is why we need a Rumble specific section. Or a bit shoot. Bit shoot lets you get away with anything. So maybe we should do
a while ago when you said, my mind always goes to weird things like the banana hammock. But when
of course, it's going to a banana hammock.
When you said Americans are known for rocking the boat, immediately my mind went to Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas to kill a bunch of Hessians. Yes, Americans and boat rocking. That's what we're.
What was that? Is that? I think it was like Shane Gillis, the comedian, who was talking about that. Did you ever see his bit on it?
Yeah, I did. That was actually quite funny.
I'm not sure how much of it I can say because it uses the R word a lot with it, but
his trip to Mount Vernon was pretty good.
Yeah, you know, because I'm what do you say? I'm retarded from the nose up or whatever, and I was wearing a mask, just covers his face. That dude's a funny dude. That's a funny dude. Even you know,
his impression of Trump is almost identical.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Your eyes up, I don't know if you know the difference if you closed your eyes.
Oh man. So I will say, so obviously there's been a lot of issues with AI, especially after, I'm sure you heard about the whole Taylor Swift incident, right? Where people are posting like pornographic images of Taylor Swift using AI. So there's been a lot of fears involving like what AI can do when it comes to, you know, creating inappropriate pictures of women. Have you heard about the new AI that's been created?
I know where you're going, and I think it's one of the funnier things I've seen. So yeah, I know where this is headed.
I had to be careful about which pictures I pulled up, but luckily Jack Posobiec posted a compilation that I think is relatively appropriate, but mind you, it's still, it walks the line a little bit. But a new AI has been created called Dignify, where instead of declothing women, it takes slutty pictures of women and then puts clothes on them. And not only does it do that,
it
do what?
removes tattoos. It fixes hair for the crazy wacky hair colors that you see.
Yep, the whole tattoos one is, it also removes piercings.
Yeah.
Which, the funny thing about this is how angry it is making people. Like, people are getting furious over this online. You go to like Reddit, and it's people saying how misogynistic it is, how it's just showing that men want control over women's bodies. So at this point, I don't know what they want. You know, you sit there and try to push for seductive pictures of women, and oh, what do you know? You're a misogynist. If you say, hey, women should actually be clothed, oh, you're a misogynist. But this, you know, people, because I always say that I'm actually not that fearful of AI for the most part. This is why I'm not too fearful of AI, because as soon as someone creates something terrible to do with it, someone else creates something that's absolutely hysterical to do with it. And there's been so many hysterical things to do with AI recently, and this is definitely one of them. Sorry, and early in the morning, apparently I can't talk right. I'm surprised you heard about this, though. I guess you follow Jack Posobiec too, right?
Oh yeah, speaking of the Trump Twitter mafia. Yeah. But no, it wasn't just him. It was a lot of those things popping up. But they were doing it to guys too.
Yeah,
and
no.
away
So
the piercings and tattoos off of guys too. So
I'm gonna go ahead and pull one of them with that, because I'm scared to type it in with. Let's see. I'm scared to type it in live because who knows what might come up. Some of the guy ones are pretty strange. So people might have heard the Island Boys. Here's for some reason the guys don't look as natural with it though, right?
No, the white shirt and the tie, that looks like AI.
Yeah.
Their regular look looks like AI because nobody can look that weird.
No, the creepy one is I don't know if it's Logan Paul or Jake Paul, because they look exactly the same to me. He looks like a bad guy in like some B-rated spy movie.
Or the bastard child of the royals in England.
Yeah, for some reason the guys I think look a lot worse with it. The funny one, if I can find it, was, did you see the Elon Musk one?
I don't think I saw that one.
So there's that picture of Elon getting out of getting off on his yacht, and obviously he's not in great shape. I mean, he's, you know, obviously, but I love how it even makes the suit wet. Like, the AI could figure out that he just got out of the water, so clearly it needed to make the entire suit wet.
So this makes me want to go to AI and just type in wetsuit and see if it understands what I'm talking about.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you'll like what you'll get if you type that. But it's funny because obviously when they do it to the guys are kind of like, would you look at that? That's funny. Look what you did with AI. But then, of course, the women posting the OnlyFans pictures and stuff like that have been getting super upset over it. And it's just hysterical to me seeing what's happening.
Well,
but AI, again.
Being a proud member of the lost generation of Gen Xers who grew up in a time where you had to sneak around to try to find pictures, and you did anything you could possibly do to find pictures of girls with less clothing. The fact that we've reached the point, I mean, to the point that you would sit in front of the cable scramble channel just hoping to get a glimpse of something. Now we got AI putting clothes back on them. It's come full circle.
It's okay, Mom. I'm just watching Airplane. It's a good comedy. I'm not pausing at a particular segment of it. I'm watching Dawn of the Dead because it's a horror movie, not because there's boobies at the end of the credit scene. No, it's funny. It's because like now it's at a point where I can't even sit there and go on Twitter or I guess X and actually look anything up while it's live because it would just be everywhere, even when I try to avoid it.
Yeah, so and we talked about this, I think, off the a couple of days ago, but Twitter had gotten to the point where the porn type stuff was just gone. Because you go for a while where you just start getting friend requests from all these OnlyFans things, and it had stopped, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. They figured out how to put an end to this, and then like about a week or so ago, it hit with a vengeance.
I,
It's back.
I don't know what it's about, but it's like you just go on the just scroll down, fight the For You section, and what do you know is the people who would post like, of course, hashtags stuff you're interested in, but then it's just, of course, a naked woman basically. It just, I don't know what they're doing, and even Elon's addressed it and said like, hey, we're working on this. I don't know what's going on. These are unauthorized advertisements basically for OnlyFans, and I guess that's their big thing is that hey, you need to pay us if you're going to be running ads for your OnlyFans. But I mean, I'm still for I'm still for the idea that pornography should just be banned on X anyway because it's a 13 and up platform. Like it doesn't make sense that should even be allowed on there. Or at the very least, have a very hard limit of you have to actually present your ID to show you're 18 or over, and then you can view it or something like that. But yeah, it's everywhere now to a point where I cannot sit there and look anything up on X while it's live, or else who knows what might come up. The worst part is it might not even be that. At this point, it could also be a lot of snuff films because I've seen the amount of people I've seen die on X is ridiculous now. It is. I keep getting recommended this channel, and it's probably because I always stop to watch it, unfortunately, but it's like F around and find out. And like,
yeah,
it's a picture of like someone getting run over by a train, and I'm like, oh, why did I just watch that? But because I watched it, it's going to now recommend it to me later on.
Shows more, yeah. And well, how about this? You watch a video that could be perfectly normal because a lot of times I'm getting wildlife videos these days. I don't know exactly why, and it's perfectly normal, but it is something about it, and you're like, maybe it's like, I wonder what kind of snake that is or something like that. Well, you have to scroll through like 40 just BS things before anybody's even talking about what that video was.
Yeah, exactly.
Pounding it with attention grabbing and people trying to just tag on and kind of piggyback off of whatever the post is. You can't even get to the discussion about the post.
So like right now, because I backed out that last X post. And the first thing now it's recommending me, though, is WWE. So it's getting better. And it's Kane.
The Kane backflip. Yeah.
Hey, so that was the good days of WWE. Well, somewhat. That was when he got his other mask, but still.
What you said a while ago about the pornography thing. Do you see it as a free speech issue at all, being that X is the only free speech platform? Well, I shouldn't say only, that you got Rumble and a couple others, but Elon is big and this is free speech. Do you consider it free speech?
No, I don't consider it free speech at all. I consider it in the same line of expression where it can be restricted, probably should be restricted more than it already is. And the whole idea of free speech was for you to share your opinions, not for you to share pictures of your butthole. I mean, just... So I am not an absolutist when it comes to that. I believe in limits to expression. I do believe it should be very open. I think what should be is the federal government should have very little involvement. I think this is a state by state issue. A lot of states have taken already certain rules saying that like on pornography websites, they have to have systems in place that you have to submit your ID before you can actually enter, which to me makes complete sense because if you want to go...
North Carolina just put that into effect.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Which to me makes perfect sense because if you were going to go trying to buy a Playboy at a store, you have to show ID. I don't think that's a big issue. I'm not saying I am for the complete banning of all pornography, period, but I do not think it would be unconstitutional to ban all pornography. I think that's, again, a state-by-state issue. Because, again, once you start getting down to expression versus speech, I would like to see more free expression, but the states are the ones who I think overall get to decide what that limit is for the most part. And I guess if you're going to call your platform the public square, there should be some limits on what you can say.
And I guess if you're going to call your platform the public square, there should be some
Yes,
decency
exactly.
rules in the
Yeah,
public
yeah. You
square.
can't just sit there and go downtown and, well, I don't know. These days, you probably could go down completely naked and do whatever you want. It depends. I mean, was it San Francisco where they had a gay pride parade where they had a guy tied up to like a bench while it was going like down the parade aisle and whacking him with like a fillet of dildos? Like, it just insane crap like that. It should never be allowed in public.
No,
Yet it's celebrated.
that was actually in the Senate chamber.
No, they were using something else in the Senate chamber. So yeah, I don't know.
I think that did get just a little more graphic in the Senate.
But yeah, I'm not for it on X because like you said, it's supposed to be the town square in a way. So
I was just happy there was video from the Senate where they weren't screwing us.
Yeah. Who knew they get screwed as much as we do? I just love everyone called what was his name? The guy from Carolina, the guy in the wheelchair.
Cawthorn.
Cawthorn, yeah, they called him crazy for saying there was a bunch of drug parties and sex parties and stuff like that going on in DC. And well, you know, we get videos of them having sex in the Senate chambers. So I mean, what? And that's them posting it publicly. So I mean, what else are they doing?
Yeah, I got hacked from this video that I posted on a public place.
It was like that. There was a it was either a congresswoman or it might have been a local official who, her and her husband were making like a bunch of pornographic videos and posting them online on porn sites.
So
and people found them.
Before you go any further, it was a candidate for office in Virginia. Now, if you were to guess, is this a Republican candidate or a Democrat candidate?
Oh, I don't know. I bet they were a good Christian Republican who went to like Catholic mass, you know, constantly.
those Latin mass will just turn you sideways if you're not careful. But yeah, and so they defended her to the hilt. She has her right to do this, and they shouldn't be sharing this information that she shared.
Well, you see this now with like all these teachers getting caught having OnlyFans accounts, and then of course getting fired, as they should, because who wants to prostitute, you know, teaching their children? Like, obviously you wouldn't want, like, no sane person would ever want this. But because they have this view and they keep trying to push that sex work is real work, they keep saying, well, it won't be any difference if they were working at McDonald's, you know, after they got done teaching. Except for the fact of no one actually believes sex work is real work. Like, if anyone dared put in the contract, hey, your job is to help fill out these client forms, and then on Sunday you had to provide sexual favors to the men in the office, they would be sued into oblivion, because we understand, yes, there is a difference between work and things of sexual nature. Like, we understand there is a difference. It's a case where like our language is almost not it's almost too direct in the sense we don't really have a term for like different forms of work too well. You know, it's kind of like we had our preacher was talking about this actually last Sunday, how like the Greeks had like 7 different words for love, right? While we only have one word, which is just love. And because of that, it can be kind of weird interpreting certain things in Greek because of how that all works. It's kind of a similar thing in the whole work situation where, sure, you could say you're working, but it's not real work, right? It just doesn't make sense.
It's the oldest profession, dude. Haven't you heard?
Yeah, oldest profession. Yeah. I mean, that's probably true. And guess what? We evolved past that, or at least we should. I will ask this though, because
I'm pretty sure at this point we're in a state of devolution, not evolution, with our society.
Well, I will say this because I still think, you know, kind of getting the AI back involved with this in a way, I still think AI is going to ruin a lot of that stuff for a lot of those OnlyFans workers. I really do. Like, once you get to a point where someone can generate whatever they want, talk to whoever they want, have whatever they want, what purpose will there ever be for those OnlyFans models whatsoever? So I think it might be a self-correcting problem now with AI, where the people who are so undisciplined to a point where they can't avoid that stuff, they'll just get sucked into AI. And the women who've been extorting these people who are just undisciplined and a lot of times, to be honest, like basically grown children, they won't be able to make any money off of them because what do they have to offer that the machine can't offer them? So
So
I
you've been into the VR world for a while. What is the new Apple View thing? $3,500. Is it a game changer, or is it
hell
just
no.
the?
It is the dumbest
I mean,
crap
because
ever.
I keep seeing the videos up of everybody
I
walking around in public doing this.
It's because it's a meme. That's all it really is. So here's the thing. I don't like Facebook, but their new Oculus 3 they created, same basic thing, $500. Okay, frankly, it might not be as clear when it comes to the what you could see in front of you at the same time, but it could do a hell of a lot more. It just the whole Apple thing, it's what Apple always does. They create a product that's half as good as the competition, but have better marketing for it. That's all it really is. Like I could never.
I wouldn't say they've always done that, because the iPod was solid.
Okay, ever since how am I blanking on his name? Steve Jobs. Ever since he died, it's gone that way. Then, I mean, really, when the iMacs first started, sure, they were actually pretty good quality. I learned video editing and stuff like that on iMacs, but then like instantly after, like Adobe software and stuff like that became available on regular PCs, there was no reason to ever have an iMac. They were worthless. They were pieces of crap. Even back when Apple, actually, no, even back when Apple was run by Steve Jobs, who was gaming on an Apple computer? I mean, come on. Like, it just, if you knew your way around a regular computer, like a regular PC, it would be well and above, any Apple computer you could buy. It just was so dumb. But they had better marketing with everything. And they did knock it out of the park when it came to the original iPhone and the iPod, for sure.
So this Apple View is you said half as good, if that.
It's better when it comes to the augmented reality stuff, but when it comes to everything else it can do, what's the point of the augmented reality stuff for the most part? I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, you can make Ben Franklin on a $50 bill come to life and talk to you. I've seen that.
And that was the worst marketing thing I think our company ever did. My first thought when I saw that was, how much effing money did we spend on this crap?
I didn't mean to get off, because so what happened to the Google version that was like a pair of glasses that looked halfway normal, where you could just walk around and not look like an idiot?
I mean, some ordeal, didn't have good marketing, and again, what use case was for it? And it didn't have apps, and that's the thing. Like the Apple headset actually does have apps already loaded to it that Apple has created before launching it, so you had a reason to get it. But it's only for the meme. No one's literally going around with that thing because they think it's productive. It's like the same reason people walked around with a Zune, if you remember what those things were. It's like no one actually bought it thinking like, this really is going to be the next big thing. What it is, they went, ha, how, look how quirky I am. I have a Zune. You guys have an iPod. Like it's just stupid is all it really is. I mean, again, the Apple Vision has some use cases when it comes to like designers who are working like in certain environments when it comes to developing maybe new vehicles or architecture, stuff like that, like in an office setting.
Real estate agent doing home visits.
Yep, stuff like that would be actually very good. But other than that, like it's still more of a professional headset than a mass adoption headset. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, at 3,500, yeah, it has to be. But this is, everybody likes to talk crap about the rich, but this is where the rich people really help product development, because the rich buy those things when they're more expensive than what they're worth. It funds the development, which then leads to cheaper, better products that are more suited for the masses. So,
in a way, I was one of those stupid early adopters of VR, because I bought the original VR headset back when it was that Vive or whatever, where you're installing the cameras in the wall and all that kind of stuff to track you.
I still got the holes in the ceiling above my head.
Yeah, your office is my old bedroom. But I spent it was like $1,200 on that thing. It was a lot of money, but I've always been fascinated by the idea of VR, so I really wanted to try it. And it's funny because now, of course, my headset I have now is way superior to it, and it cost me $300. And frankly, this one is still not. I guess now it's outdated, but it does things way better than that headset that I had y'all try when
we got some good video of that.
Do
Yeah.
what?
So we got some good video of us old people using VR. It still freaks me out, but
Well,
you
I
get
remember we played a horror game and you tried running away in real life and about had the headset fly off your head.
man, that thing freaked me out. All of a sudden, you got a zombie behind you with a knife on your neck. What are you going to do? You got to get out of the way.
Well, I mean, now it is so much different things. There was a VR flight simulator thing, and it was a guy I was watching try it out, and it did this crazy thing that I thought was absolutely fascinating. The guy, it's a full simulator to point where you have to flip all the right switches, like it. You could actually learn to fly a plane in the thing, right? It is that good. He forgot to properly, fully activate the oxygen for the capsule of the actual jet he was in. And what the headset, or what it did to the headset, is it caused the vision in the headset to start changing and getting a bit kind of loopy. And he thought he was just getting kind of like VR sick, right? Like he's been playing for too long. And he took it off and realized that wasn't the case. And when we went back into it, we found out, no, the game was intentionally making it seem a bit loopy because he forgot to set the like oxygen meters for the jet before he took off. Like just
Yeah,
crazy stuff like that.
that would freak me out because I do get VR sick. I couldn't play Half Life with you because it got me vertigo in that thing. So I
You
would
have to
struggle.
adjust. It's like being on a boat for a long enough time and you get your sea legs. Like you have to get your VR legs.
If you've got one as frightened as your mom is of snakes, if you've got one that includes snakes, that next time we're there, that we could get her to try where I could where I could video it, that might be fun.
No, we gotta play a Resident Evil 4 VR. Remember you sit there and you cut open the box and the snake jumps out at you?
Man, I used to scream out loud playing the Nintendo version of that. That wasn't VR.
They have a VR version now.
Ugh. I don't know if I could stand it. That was creepy. That was creepy, and just the regular video game version.
Oh, I do have to say this. Playing through the entirety of Half-Life in VR is still so much fun. I talk about a game that holds up. The original Half-Life in VR is so much fun.
You're welcome for your love of Half Life.
What was it 6 years old? Me just sitting on your lap and shooting Marines and aliens and. Hey, it got me to love science though, which is a strange way to get me to love science, seeing it in the world. But
It also got you when we went to your first airports to feel like those little trams were
yeah,
taking you
yeah,
down to
yeah.
see Gordon.
Oh man, I can't wait till Junior gets that age where I can get him to play those kind of games. However, he's playing putt putt and Freddy Fish right now and actually doing it, which is so cool to see. I have to tell him which things to click so he can get through it, but he will not let me touch the mouse at all now. Now he's like, no, I got it. I do it. And he's like actually saying, go this way or go this way. We were playing like putt putt save the zoo, and I was like, oh, go to the snow, and he would go click on the snow and he'll go right over there.
Well, I got to come for a visit because I'd like to play. We got to get the backyard sports back in and get those going again.
Mom found backyard football when she was cleaning up a bunch of stuff, so
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I can find backyard baseball somewhere online to play. Then we can knock it out of the park with Pablo Sanchez.
Pablo Sanchez, yep.
Well, I hear the kids waking up, so on that note, well, yep, there he is. On that note, I guess we'll go ahead and end it. And hey, we didn't get cut off at all this time. So
I've still got Zooms to do the rest of the day, so I'm knocking on wood to make sure that that I'm not going to freeze up at some point today.
apparently in the morning, we're less likely to lose connection, I guess. That's because no one's online this early, right?
Yeah, it was dark when we started and the sun's up, so we've been at it for a while.
All right, well, hope everyone has a good rest of their day, and I guess I'll talk to you later.